questions too. So, Colleen, welcome.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I was thrilled to be asked to display with the Capital City Arts Initiative. I've admired several of the shows up at the college where I work. They have taken the Western Nevada College gallery space. So every time there's a show up there, I see who the new artist is. So now I'm in the same company as them. So, quite an honor. Thank you so much. It was a big surprise last year. You approached me about it. So yeah, it's really exciting for me. So thank you, every single one of you, for coming. I'm trying to make eye contact with everybody. Most of you I know. I'll try to speak to you specifically. So we were coming up with a title, and I had some long sort of artsy sounding title, and they said, how about we just call it Watercolor Stories? So that's what it became. And so we wrote a little story about each piece. So I encourage you to go, if you haven't already, and just read the little synopsis of the painting. I try not to just reproduce what I see. I try to put me in it. So if you look around the room, I think you'll get a fair idea of who I am. It's kind of my self-portrait here. All the things that I love, flowers and people and birds and walking in nature and landscapes. And I really like to study watercolor. And so it's been the dedication of my art life now to find out more and more and more about watercolor. So I do think it is the most challenging medium. I've painted with many, oil and acrylic and pen and pencil and just about any painting medium I've touched it. And I think that watercolor is the most challenging, and that's probably why I'm drawn to it, because it's a beast you have to wrangle. But once you get it wrangled, it's also the most freeing and expressive, I believe. So I encourage you all to dive in and learn the medium yourselves. That's all I kind of wanted to say.
Colleen, you want to talk about how you do portraits? The portrait of Mitch up there is amazing. How you do, because as you said, watercolors ain't easy. So how do you do that?
Well, I think I started studying faces, probably like a lot of little girls. I had a little sketchbook when I was a kid, and that's what my friends and I did. We went down to the park, and they would draw horses and flowers and stuff, and I always drew people. So I've been painting and drawing faces my whole life. My mother taught me the proportions before I could even go to school. So I knew all that stuff about there's an eye between your eyes and all that stuff, even before I went to kindergarten. So it's been the subject that's tied all my work together. I just love to look at people's faces and how your face is the same as her face, but completely different. So how can all those proportions be everybody is the same, and yet everybody is different? So for me, it's just this fascinating, endless challenge to find out what makes Carol's face unique, what makes Annetta's face different from every other person. Their skin tones, their spacing, but yet your spacing is still fits the standard of everybody else's spacing. It's just fascinating to me. So I never get enough of portraits and figures. The whole body it's not just the face. So how do they do it? Mitch, anybody was hoping he would come tonight, but how many people know Mitch?
Many.
How many people? Anybody? There's a couple of college people. He's the chef up at the college, Western Nevada College, and he's a real character. And so I was really just trying to get his personality. So fortunately, he's local, so we went up and did a photo shoot and had a great time in the kitchen. We got some, is that black ice, you know, the steams? Dry ice, yeah. Some dry ice, and it didn't work.
Black ice doesn't steam.
Yeah. Black ice. That's what you follow. So, dry ice. I was trying the ice and got. Anyway, but it didn't work. It just kind of creeped over the side of the pot, didn't steam up like I was supposed to. So I had to make up the steam. But we had a lot of fun trying to get the dry ice to do the steamy look, but it didn't really work. So it was fun because I got to do the photo shoot as well as, it was a commission request. And usually I'm not as fond of my work that I do as commission because, you know, somebody else is telling me what has to be in it. But Mitch just gave me free rein. He just wanted it in his kitchen. So I tried to capture his personality. I think I did. What do you think, Randy?
Oh,
Yeah. And the title kind of stirring the pot. That's what Mitch does. So I think it shows in his expression. So.
But he also cooks really good food.
Yes, he does. He's fantastic. He was a
lunch at college.
A Plein Air event that we had last year at the Governor's Mansion. He was the caterer up there too. So he's an independent contractor that happens to run the Wildcat Den up at the college. So did that answer your question?
Yeah. So is there a subject that has frustrated you to the point that you won't go there? Is there something that?
I'm not intimidated by any but I will say the hardest thing is plein air, painting outside. And for a long time I gave up on that because it was just so hard. I'm a redhead, I'm also a hot flashing woman. So the combination of the heat and the bugs and the sun and, you know, fighting all the elements and then getting out there and painting plein air. So once again though, I decided to organize a plein air event just to make it easy for myself. So I would say that that's the most challenging, not necessarily subject, but environment to paint in. But in the end, boy, you're proud of that work when you get it done. And it's, wow, I did that in an hour. Wow. So, or it's completely tanked and paint, throw it in the bin.
We never hear about it.
Or it never comes out of the sketchbook. So probably not a subject per se, but an environment.
So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm getting ready for a workshop that starts Friday. Some of you will be in it. That's focused on trees. So, it's really got me looking at trees. So I've been doing some, trying to figure out how I'm going to teach it. A lot of the way I learn watercolor is when I have to break it down and tell somebody else how to do it. It helps me learn it too. So the teaching is a symbiotic relationship with the painting. The more I paint, the more I teach, the better I get. It's I get just probably as much learning out of teaching the class as the students do, maybe even more. So that's what I'm doing now. Trees.
So how often do you do workshops?
Since COVID, it's kind of worked out to once a month-ish, but not every single month, depending on the rest of my obligations. I was doing weekly classes, and I just got so that's all I was doing. I wasn't painting for myself at all. So I've changed my format to just probably once a month, but not every single month. So probably 9 to 10 months out of the year, I'll do one a month. And they're just 2.5 days, which I have found is the perfect timing for a workshop. The half day is the evening to kind of set us up for 2 days. After that, my body just can't take it anymore. I'm finding it's hard to stand up all day. So, yeah.
Okay.
So any more than that, and I couldn't do it.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Where do you have your work?
Where I have a studio that's not too far from here. I rent space out of you've lived here a long time, right? Yeah. Do you know where the Brewery Arts Center is? In the big administrative building across the street from that? I'm in the back of that. So I teach little workshops out of there. I also teach up at the Western Nevada College, academic watercolor. So.
You have another question?
Yeah.
The picture in the corner here referred to a technique I've never heard of before. Is brush technique? Or
Yeah, that's the medium. So the medium is called brusho. It's it's a product out of England that isn't water media, but it's crystallized ink powder. And so it's all really super brilliant pigments and very staining, so you have to work really fast because as soon as it hits the paper, it's staining, gets real dark real easy. It's kind of a challenge, but you sprinkle it out and spray water on it, it kind of explodes into fireworks. It's a really exciting medium to work with. You can dilute it, just dissolve it and paint it very much like watercolor, but it doesn't have the thickness of the paint that watercolor does, the viscosity. It's just all super, it's like Tang. You dissolve Tang, it's all kind of like that. So that's, there's another one. Where's the park is also that same medium. It's ideal for a particular technique that I call watercolor pouring, where it's kind of like a batik. You mask off whites and then you pour color and then you mask off the next layer and pour color. Well, this medium works really well for that because it's all super transparent and super staining. So, thank you for asking. That's one of our favorite paintings. Randy is my husband, he's over here. He bought it from me. That's the one I'm not allowed to say. So, yeah.
Are there more paintings in your mother's work? Or are we even more in your mother's?
There's one more of my actual mother, just a portrait of my mother. I want to do one more when we're all adults. I have a picture that I might work off of. Yeah. So did you enjoy the mother series?
Absolutely. I'd love to see a whole show.
Just the mother stories? I would call the show, I want to do father stories. I want to delve into all the old photographs of the albums, that just kind of sit there. And so that's what I was kind of doing. It kind of reconnected me with my mother, especially this one of her in the bathing suit. It's like, whoa, my mom was hot. Moms aren't hot. So that was what started. And if you read the lettering in gold paint is actually one of her writings. So she was a writer. Yeah.
The journal right behind it.
Yeah. So.
How did you do that with the writing behind it, Colleen?
Initially I masked it with a ruling pen like draftsmen use. I have a very inky masking fluid, so I wrote it with pencil, then masked it, just writing it like I would have with a pen. It's a dip it in and like an old time writing it with ink.
How long did that take you?
The whole painting or just the mask?
The printing, the writing.
I don't think it was a really extensive, just like writing, yeah. I transferred the story out of one of her notebooks, just wrote it. That wasn't the longest part of the process. That painting took weeks. So the painting itself took weeks trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and so anyway, that was the first one. And then I did the one of the horses. There's a lot of symbolism. She was during the World War II. Her and her sister went up to a ranch on Indian Valley with her mother. It was the best time of her life. So that's what that's about. All the feathers and everything's Indian Valley representative. It was her dreamland. So Indian Valley, Idaho, where the ranch was during World War II. So thank you for noticing those. It was a very personal project.
Yeah.
Those were, yeah.
A lot of love in there.
Thanks. And I'm the caboose in the mom chair. Everybody figured it out.
For the afterthought?
Yeah. There's actually another.
Oh, is that right?
But he didn't make the photo op. No, it was just a video before his time. So,
Any other questions?
Almost like a 10 times.
Have you got any other classes that you are aiming for?
coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got quite a few on the schedule. So I would encourage, it's finally dawned on me, I've only never seen you without a mask.
Oh, that's right.
It's like, Marguerite, right? It's like, all of a sudden, it's like, I know her. I know her. I kept looking at all of a sudden, yes.
So funny.
she's a plein air painter, so that's how we met. Anyway, so, sorry, distraction, overs are running. Yes, I have a lot of classes scheduled, up through May now. So on my website, I just revamped it, everybody go look at it real quick. Check it out, there's links to all my workshops. If you click on the link, it tells you all about the class. So, have one this weekend, one at the end of April. May, I'm doing a plein air workshop. Anybody interested in joining my plein air event? You can learn plein air with me. We'll get out there and slap the bugs together. And then at the end, I have a basics class. That's just a day and a half. Those are just a day and a half and not 2.5 days. So that's what I have scheduled so far. And then the big plein air events. Many of you were involved last year. Thank you. We're getting that started again. So it's a watercolor plein air. The finale is at the Governor's Mansion September 18th, but we'll have 3 days ahead of that where artists will be out painting plein air. So hopefully everybody that did it last year will do it again this year. If not, it's going to be a great cause. Judy Welsh was just here. They're going to come up with who the charitable recipient is any day now. So I'm sure that'll change everybody's mind. They'll just start throwing money.
Are you gonna allow any studio painting entered on the plein air like you did last year?
Yes, the event is on my website, the big description of it, and apparently it's pretty complicated, but there's 2 phases to it. One is you can paint from photographs. You just don't get as many points, and you're not eligible for the best of show award this year, but yes, there's still, studio paintings are still allowed, so.
That's for the plein air event.
The plein air event, yeah,
Yeah.
but you have to participate in plein air if you do if you get juried into the studio painting prizes. You have to paint plein air this year. In watercolor. And Marguerite's can do it, right? It was a great event last year.
It was very nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Well, thank you. I see a new face back here. I don't know this person.
This is my friend Lynn.
That's why. I thought maybe you were together. Because, you're sitting next to each other.
I just dragged her along.
Her husband's mine. So what's your name?
Lynn.
Lynn. Thank you. Do you paint?
Not at all.
Not at all. You just admire?
I am an artistic admirer.
Well, we need those too. We need those people too.
And on that note, all of one is sold, and I think 3 are private collections, but the rest of them are all for sale. And if you would like to purchase, CCAI's, we're taking the checks, our address, our name and address, our PO box, no, it's right here. So you can mail me a check. But let me know if there's something you want. We prefer checks or cash. I did not bring the credit card thingy with me, because I didn't. But we really appreciate all of you for coming. CCI has exhibitions at the Courthouse Gallery. We have the show 2 Views with Robert Guevara and Cesar Pedro, and it will be up through early June. And Figure Studies by Phyllis Schaeffer. If you've ever lusted after a Phyllis Schaeffer piece, and they sell it Strummel for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. These are all for sale for $250, and they're all signed. So unframed, but they are demonstration drawings from years of teaching figure studies and figure drawing, and they're all up at the college. And there's some really beautiful works there. When we found that show, we found she had them, and we said we want to show them. And we talked to the college because there's a lot of frontal nudity, and they said yes, go for it. She said. She was surprised. She said, these would have just been in the garage with the mice chewing on them. No, we want them on the wall. So please go up to the college, and the flyers are here. And CCA loves to have members and donations, and it helps us pay our artist honoraria and everything. So, and if you would like to get our newsletters or our flyers by mail, please give us your email and your don't need your social security number, just your email and your mailing address. So, and if you want to purchase a piece, come and see me. And thank you all for coming. Thank you, Colleen.